Garmin's product lineup has become quite confusing in recent years. Watches for runners, outdoor athletes, divers, various sizes, pro versions, solar versions and much more. However, the budget-friendly category is pretty much missing because, let's be honest, very few Garmin watches are really affordable. But now another model has been added to the lineup, the Garmin Forerunner 165. This model is currently available for less than $300, which is really affordable compared to other sports watches, especially Garmin watches. So who is this watch for? What are the pros and cons, and which features do we have to sacrifice due to the lower price? We'll discuss all of that in today's video because, as always, I have tested the watch to the limit in the last couple of weeks. So let's get started. Garmin's Forerunner watches are primarily made for runners and endurance athletes. And especially in this series, the lineup has become very confusing during the last couple of years. The budget model here is the Forerunner 55, which is really affordable but lacks some features. Then there's the Forerunner 265, which has many more features but is also way more expensive. And then the new Forerunner 165 falls right in between these two models, both in terms of the features as well as the price. At the top end of the Forerunner spectrum is the 965, which, like the Phoenix and Epix watches, offers full topographic maps, for example. But now let's focus on the Forerunner 165. From the outside, it's a very familiar sight. The watch is entirely made of plastic, making it very lightweight at just 39 grams. Unlike the 265, it's only available in one size with a case diameter of 43mm, which falls between the 265S at 41.7mm and the 265 at 46mm. But the watch is also super thin at just 11.6mm, making it as slim as the even smaller Forerunner 55. One difference compared to this watch is the display. The 165 now features an AMOLED display, just like the more expensive watches. The trend for sports watches in general is moving towards AMOLED displays, offering rich colors, high contrasts and excellent readability, especially in darker environments. And I also had no trouble reading the AMOLED display in the sun either. We're talking about a 1.2-inch display with a resolution of 390 x 390 pixels. And yeah, there's not much more to tell about the external appearance of the watch, so let's turn our attention to a perhaps more interesting aspect, the battery life. Battery life is, of course, a very important criterion for sports watches. On paper, the Forerunner 165 lasts up to 11 days, but there's a catch. Garmin specifies under which conditions these runtimes are possible, and sports activities are not included. And if you're not using the watch for sports activities, then there's no point in buying the Forerunner watch in the first place. Additionally, the watch has an AMOLED display, and many, myself included, like to use the always on mode, which reduces the battery life to up to 4 days. In continuous GPS mode, the watch lasts up to 19 hours, or if you're using all GPS systems simultaneously, more on that later, up to 17 hours. Overall, the battery life is a bit weaker than that of the Forerunner 55, but unlike that watch, the 165 has an AMOLED display. The Forerunner 265 or 265S offers slightly better battery lives, but not significantly more. Overall, the battery life is more than okay for a watch at this price point and with this display technology, especially when compared to classic smartwatches. As the name Forerunner already suggests, this watch is mainly aimed at runners. So which training features do we get? For training, there are many different modes to choose from, including the classic running mode, track running, treadmill, trail running, ultra run and hiking. Swimmers will especially appreciate the open water swimming mode as well. However, unlike the more expensive 265, there is no triathlon or multisports mode, and cyclists have a few limitations as well, with only cycling and indoor cycling available, so no specific modes for mountain biking or e-biking, for example. Furthermore, team sports like football, volleyball or basketball are also missing, and snowboarding or skiing are also not available on the watch. However, the watch does have a barometric altimeter, unlike the Forerunner 55, so the elevation gain can be accurately tracked while running. Overall, there is a very good selection of modes for runners, while other athletes may have to make a few compromises, but the watch is specifically aimed at runners, like I said. And for this target group, there are also many useful features in the modes themselves. In addition to the classic data and statistics, the watch can also calculate running efficiency, including values such as ground contact time, vertical ratio or stride length. It can also calculate running power in watts, which is set to better reflect performance than speed, as it includes inclines and declines. These are all things that you couldn't buy at Garmin for this price until now. Furthermore, there's the popular Pace Pro feature, which helps you plan routes based on your pace. The watch gives you predictions for specific running distances and also provides training suggestions. Additionally, you'll find yoga, Pilates or high-intensity interval training workouts on the watch, but unlike the Forerunner 265, the watch cannot display animated exercises. Outside of the training mode, you can create competitions in the app and see them on the watch in a separate race day widget, where you'll see weather forecasts and running predictions for this event, and your training suggestions will also be tailored to this event. Another thing that has become increasingly popular in recent years is heart rate variability, which describes the changing time between consecutive heartbeats. This statistic provides important insights into stress and overall health and is intended to help understand how the body copes with the challenges of daily life and the environment. For this, Garmin offers the so-called HRV status, which unlike the Forerunner 55 is now also included in the Forerunner 165. This also applies to two other health features. Firstly, you can now also use the health snapshot feature, where you simply have to sit still for 2 minutes, during which all your key health data will be checked at once. Secondly, there's the morning report, which, as the name suggests, displays the most important data and statistics in the morning after waking up to help you start the day optimally. And speaking of waking up, the watch of course offers sleep analysis as well. So you'll see your sleep time, get a sleep score and see the distribution across different sleep phases. And you'll even get the sleep coach that recommends the amount of sleep your body needs for the upcoming night based on your activity level, stress level, recovery and your previous sleep behavior. And what's also new is the detection of naps, where even the classic afternoon nap can be tracked and analyzed. So as we can see, many helpful training features have been added to the watch compared to the Forerunner 55. But now let's briefly take a look at those training features that are still missing. Apart from the already mentioned triathlon mode, for example, you don't have real-time stamina data. The body battery feature is very popular with Garmin and is available on all newer watches, so of course it's also on this watch. Throughout the day, your remaining body energy reserves are displayed. Real-time stamina data gives you these reserves during a single workout. However, this is only possible with the high-end Forerunner 965, not with the 265 and not with the new 165. Furthermore, there is the training readiness feature, which also gives you a value between 0 and 100, indicating how ready you are for your next training session. This is broken down into various factors related to your training and recovery. This is definitely useful, but unfortunately not available on the Forerunner 165 either. The watch can also calculate your VO2 max, but not your lactate threshold, and there are no widgets for training load, including training load focus or load ratio. So although you can see the training effect for each session, indicating how each workout affects your fitness level, and you're also shown a suggested recovery time, you don't have a widget to keep track on your long-term training loads. But here we are also already talking about the very advanced training analysis. So overall, the Forerunner 165 offers an impressive amount of training features for this price, especially for runners. I should also mention that this watch comes in two different versions, a standard version and a music version, in which you can download up to 500 songs directly to the watch and then listen to music without having to take your phone. Although unlike Garmin's Phoenix or Epix watches, this is not the specialty of the Forerunner 165, it also comes with some interesting outdoor and navigation features. The Forerunner 55 doesn't have any navigation features at all, while with the 165 you can now load routes onto the watch and navigate based on them. While it doesn't use topographic maps like the Forerunner 965, it's totally sufficient for most cases, and you can also use features like back to start and track back. As for GPS, the Forerunner 165, unlike the more expensive options in the Forerunner series, does not have multiband GPS, which is considered particularly accurate. So while it can use the common GNSS systems like GPS, Galileo and GLONASS simultaneously, it doesn't use different frequencies like multiband does. But what impact does the lack of multiband actually have? Here you can see one of my classic running routes, which the watch records very accurately. I was simultaneously testing the Polar Grid X2 Pro, which has multiband, but was still very inaccurate, especially in this part of the route, for example, cutting through buildings. These inaccuracies did not occur with the Forerunner 165, despite it lacking multiband. For another test, as usual, I went into the forest and ran back and forth on the exact same narrow forest path. The Forerunner 165 tracked this very accurately. The outbound and return paths align very well. I've conducted this test with numerous watches before. Here you can see the significantly more expensive Garmin Fenix 7X Pro, for example, which wasn't more accurate either. Or well, actually it doesn't really get more accurate. Other watches have definitely been less accurate in this regard, so despite the lacking multiband, I am completely satisfied with the Forerunner 165 in terms of GPS accuracy. Besides the GPS, I also wanted to know how accurate the heart rate measurement of the Forerunner 165 is. You should know that this watch uses the 4th generation of its Elevate sensor, while other Garmin watches from last year already had the 5th generation. However, I haven't honestly noticed significant differences between these two sensors so far. Accuracy also depends on many different factors, such as the design of the watch. So how does the Forerunner 165 perform? As always, in order to test this, I wore both the watch and a chest strap simultaneously during many of my workouts and then compared both datasets afterwards. Here you can see one of my running sessions with the data from the Forerunner 165 in red and the data from the chest strap in blue. And yes, this is truly a perfect result, it couldn't be any better. Both the initial rise in heart rate and the decrease in heart rate towards the end match perfectly between the watch and the chest strap, and overall both curves are nearly identical. Therefore also the average heart rate differs by less than 1 beat per minute. In this second session my heart rate generally fluctuated a bit more, which was well detected by the watch. There were some minimal fluctuations in between, but overall another very good result, with the average heart rate also deviating by only half a beat per minute from the chest strap. Now on to strength training. Here optical heart rate monitoring is significantly more challenging due to the many fluctuations in the heartbeat in general and the movements of the wrist. The result here looks noticeably less accurate than during running, but compared to other sports watches, this is an above average result. There are definitely deviations, but both curves are at least very similar, and even though this might be luck as well, both average heart rate values are almost identical. In this second session it looked even better. Again, no identical curve patterns as with running, but in comparison to other watches it's really a good result. Overall I'm satisfied with the accuracy of the optical heart rate monitoring, although personally for strength training or similar sports I would still opt for the chest strap. It's also interesting to know that in addition to heart rate, blood oxygen saturation can also be measured. The watch has a pulse oximeter, which was still missing in the Forerunner 55. Alright, so what can we conclude about the new Forerunner 165? First of all, Garmin's lineup certainly didn't get any less confusing with the addition of this watch. However, this watch definitely fills a gap that many athletes and especially runners have longed for. The Forerunner 265 offers pretty much everything a runner could dream of, but comes with a hefty price tag of nearly $500. The Forerunner 55 is a top watch for beginners, very affordable, but still lacks some features. And that's where the Forerunner 165 comes in, which offers the biggest amount of features for a below $300 Garmin watch. Unlike the Forerunner 55, the watch has an AMOLED display, navigation features, a barometric altimeter, heart rate variability, as well as values for running efficiency, all of which are definitely important features for runners. However, in my opinion, the Forerunner 165 and 265 could just be combined. In this case, you would have a very cheap entry-level model with the 55, then this mid-range model around $300, and then the Forerunner 965, which for a higher price also offers outdoor and navigation features in addition to that. Nevertheless, the Forerunner 165 is certainly another great Garmin model that will surely offer many runners out there exactly what they were hoping for. And a thing that I am hoping for is that you found this video helpful or interesting. If this is the case, you could really support me and my work here by giving this video a quick thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any more videos in the future, you should definitely consider subscribing to this channel, which is totally free by the way. So, thanks a lot for watching now and see you next time.